Hey guys, thanks for stopping by again. Today I'm going to be showing you how I made some Gamer Girl Nintendo remote keychains. I used to play games as a kid, but I'm not really a huge gamer by any means now, but I wanted to create something specifically for gamer girls. So the 90s was my best decade, in my opinion. So I wanted to take the nostalgic route when making these. First, I started by mixing 3 different colors that I'm gonna mix and match to create our controller. First, I mixed some pearl and opal clay together for a white sparkly finish. Then I wanted a baby pink, so I chose Fimo Effects Rose Quartz, which when baked gives a cool kind of precious stone finish to it. Then I took a little bit of the rose quartz and mixed that with a darker pink as well as some translucent clay. There is a 4th color in there. It's just leftover pink I had pre-mixed that I wanted to use, so I mixed that in too. The reason I added the translucent clay was because there was some translucent in both clays I had mixed initially. So to keep it not looking so different from each other, I added a bit of translucent clay to the darker pink to create that same stone-like finish in the dark pink. Also, translucent clay helps to make pastel colors, as it can often soften the color to give that kind of cloud finish of a pastel that you can't really get from just using white, in my opinion. So I made these controllers in 3 colors and used the same pearl and opal mix for the controller button, and then just mixed a lighter and darker color of whatever color you want to make your remote. The other thing I realized I forgot to talk about is the importance of conditioning your clay. So when you see me do it on film, I cut a lot of time out. But basically, you are conditioning the clay to a nice, soft working consistency. And the longer you do this, the more the warmth of your hands helps to warm up the clay. Some clays will do this easily, others you may have to work at. For example, some clays are softer to start with, like Sculpey 3. I personally don't choose Sculpey 3 very often unless I need to. Because it's so soft, I find it hard to work with and get crisp lines, and it shows every mistake, while others can be very stiff, like Fimo Professional, which I usually have to add clay softener to just to condition it to a working texture. Personally, I like most Fimo brands, and Sculpey Primo I find have a good stiffness that I like to work with, but I'll be honest, if I need a color and it's a soft clay, I will make it work because I like the color. Alright, enough about that. Let's get to what you're actually looking at. So what I did first is I took the lightest pink, I rolled that out with a pasta machine on the thickest setting, I believe, and I used a guide that I created just out of like a piece of old packaging for the size of the controller that I wanted. And I just cut that out using my guide and baked that for 20 minutes in the oven. Then I start building onto the baked piece that I have to make our Nintendo controller. So I'm using the darker pink first, spreading a little bit of liquid Sculpey clay all over the base except for the edges, because I basically just use the guide to make another one of those squares and then cut it down so there's, I don't know, maybe a 5mm border left of the rose quartz on the bottom. Again, you don't have to bake the bottom first. I just think it's easier because, as you can see, then I can cut the darker pink on the baked clay and not cause any problems. So I kind of just want to chat in some of my craft videos. I don't really know what to talk about, but I feel like talking about my crafts the whole time gets a little bit boring. So I don't know, I mean, I watch a lot of YouTube. I actually canceled my TV. My gosh, I think it's been over a year, and I don't even get like ads for that stuff anymore. So I don't even know what's on TV anymore. So literally my entertainment is YouTube most of the time. I used to watch a ton of like trashy reality TV, but now I find myself watching like commentary channels on YouTube, and it's super interesting. I mean, the things that go on YouTube and Twitter and just the internet in general are nuts, and it is very interesting to watch. But I'm interested to hear, do you guys watch YouTube a lot? Do you still have TV? If you watch YouTube a lot, what kind of channels do you watch? What kind of stuff gets your attention, I guess? I don't know, I'm just interested. So on the controller now, I'm starting to make kind of the buttons. I started thinking I was gonna make like the middle home and menu buttons first, but I don't know what I was thinking. Really, you should just start from the outside in. So I scrapped that quickly and went with making the buttons. So what I have rolled out in the pearl and opal, I have a thin sheet and then a thick sheet. I cut a heart out of the thick sheet and then place that onto the thin sheet and then cut a square out of that to create that bottom button. And then you can see me here just making the directional pad. It took me so long to think of the name of that. Just shows how much I game. All right, then just place that directional pad right where you see best fit. Oh, also I use the thick slab of opal pearl mix for the directional pad as well. And then I just rolled out 2 little balls from the opal pearl mix to create some buttons above the big heart button. See, look at me now. I'm like ahead of myself. This is why I just need to like talk and yak away. But maybe you guys won't like that. Guess we're about to find out. Little side note. With using the opal clay, it has little like opal flecks in it. So sometimes when you're cutting the clay, you can't cut those opal flecks. I try to kind of pull them out with tweezers because they can make the edges of a finished piece look really messy. But I mean, I don't catch it all the time. So I mean, you might even notice in some of the pictures that there's maybe a little bit of a weird edge to something. It's generally because there's a little opal flake sticking out somewhere. So after I put the directional pad down, then I made kind of like 3 long skinny rectangles, and those were going to be the center for the home and start button sort of thing. So I did 3 of those, and in the middle one used a dotting tool and put 2 little buttons again, like I did over top of the large heart button. And then once you get all that done and you're happy with it, toss that into the oven for 20 to 30 minutes this time at 240 degrees Fahrenheit. Each clay that you get should have baking instructions on the packaging. I'm just following those baking instructions. So for best results, follow what the package says. And don't forget your clay in the oven because then you will definitely burn it. So back to chit-chatting, I just thought another interesting question. Because I watch a lot of commentary, obviously it has to do with different dramas and situations going on in different communities around YouTube. Which, let me just say this, I don't think there's really any community on YouTube that is without a little bit of drama when there's some competition there. Competition can really stir up some emotions when it's things that you're passionate about, which I believe can be a positive or a negative at times, just depending on how you choose to deal with it. But I find sometimes I've been turned off certain channels because there's so much drama involving the creator on that channel. Other times I find myself drawn to it. I don't know. Obviously it has to do with the story and what's being discussed as well. But for me, like, I hate being part of the drama. I don't mind watching it and watching other people deal with it, but I personally don't want to be part of it. Sometimes I can see the allure to troll and kind of poke fun and things like that, but I try my best to not do that. I am guilty. I mean, I'm not going to say I'm not, but let's just say I don't want to be the story, ever. Nor do I ever want to be famous or anything like that. To be honest, it seems like a poop ton of pressure that I don't want to deal with. I'm happy with just a couple, well, not like 2 or 3, but I would love for people to love my clay stuff, but I am not by any means expecting fame from this. At most, I would just like to be able to make my clay and sell it on Etsy for people to enjoy as they wish. Again, hopefully my shop will be open by the end of the month. I'll keep you guys posted. So what do you think? Are you drawn to the drama or are you drawn to the YouTuber and the person? I'm finding more and more that I am drawn to the person behind the channel and who's running it rather than the content all the time. But also at the same time, obviously the content is what is most important because it's what you see the most of. It's weird though because with the internet, I think it's easy to walk away from drama on the internet, whereas in real life, it's not always that easy to just walk away. So do people perpetuate the drama because they like it? Or is it because it's what their audience likes? Obviously, I think people are going to do what their audience likes. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I mean, it's YouTube. We all want to make content that people enjoy. So long as the content you're creating isn't causing harm to anybody. I mean, I hope you like my clay creations, but I mean, I also that's why I want to talk to you guys about other stuff. But don't expect my clay videos to go anywhere. That's probably what you're gonna see most of, because it's what I know, it's what I enjoy doing. It's kind of like a passion project on the side, but I enjoy talking just about other stuff too. So we're trying it this time. But there's a million reasons to benefit from drama. So give me your thoughts. I want to hear your guys' opinions in the comment section below. And hopefully you liked our little chit chat. So I'll get back to what I'm doing with the clay here, so you know how to make the rest of this. So once the controller was fully baked, I decided I wanted to finish it with some UV resin to give it that kind of plastic look that a remote control would have. So I did the first layer on the dark pink, just trying to make it even. That's why I'm kind of poking and prodding at it. And then I added the second layer on the edge, kind of coat the entire top of the remote control. You'll see here, my UV lamp actually broke halfway through this, which was super annoying, but I decided to order a new one that I actually spent a lot more money on, and it is so much better. But I put my little work tray out on the curb so that the UV resin could cure in the sunlight. It worked. Sometimes that's what you gotta do when stuff breaks halfway through working. But kind of cool now, my new UV lamp has a timer on it, so you can kind of see that I am curing things for like 2 minutes at a time, and that 2 minutes generally is like enough. So that's how quick it is when you use a at least mediocre quality UV lamp that you didn't buy off Wish. Then I'm using my findings mold, which I think I've used in previous videos now. It has come in handy so many times because it has so many different types of findings that you can create. So I'm just creating the one that has kind of a flat back to it, so I can stick that flat back to the back of the remote control. So I just fill that. Again, I'm using the heat gun to kind of pop any bubbles that might form, and then cure that for 2 minutes and pop it out. Something that I'm still kind of learning about, and I'll be honest, I'm a little bit nervous about for when I start selling things, is attaching findings to the piece that you've made. Even with like the eye pins that you stick into the pieces that I've done, after baking I find that I will pull the eye pin out and use some super glue and then push the eye pin back in to try and ensure that everything is super secure and you're not just going to lose your charm or your earring one day because it slipped off. Originally, when I put the flat back finding onto the back of the remote control, I used resin, but it just flat out wasn't strong enough, and I'm actually planning to sell these ones, so I wanted to make sure that they were strong enough. I went back in on the ones that it did fall off on, and I super glued them, and then I really lightly went over top with some UV resin to just really secure it, and then cured all of that. So last but not least, I just kind of went over the entire piece with a little bit of the Varathane varnish, and then I added one jump ring and one keychain finding, and there you have it. Those are the Nintendo remote controllers. I made them in 3 different colors, the baby blue, purple, and pink, and hopefully they will be available by the end of the month. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time.